Verona, the city of love, the city of romance, the city where you could get a killer plate of pasta and a mean calzone, but not necessarily in the same zip code, because in this town love was a battlefield. And the weapons of choice? Rolling pins and pizza cutters. At least that was the case for the Montague and Capulet families. They weren't just your average feuding families. No, these were culinary titans, locked in a delicious duel for dominance over Verona's taste buds. Forget the Montagues versus the Capulets. This was about deep dish versus delicate ravioli. This was war, served with a side of extra garlic bread. Their rivalry was legendary, as whispered about in hushed tones between bites of gnocchi and sips of Chianti. Every year at the Verona Food Expo, the tension would reach a fever pitch. Secret recipes were guarded like state secrets. New menu items debuted with the fanfare of a royal wedding. And in the middle of this delicious storm, two hearts would collide. Montague's Pizza Palace, a Verona institution. From the moment you stepped inside, you were hit with the intoxicating aroma of baking dough, bubbling cheese, and spicy pepperoni. The walls were adorned with faded photographs of the Montague family, their smiles as warm and inviting as the wood-fired ovens. The patriarch, Papa Montague, was a man who lived and breathed pizza. He had flour in his hair, marinara sauce on his apron, and a twinkle in his eye that spoke of 1,000 pizzas perfectly cooked. He ruled his kitchen with an iron fist, demanding perfection in every pie.
Sure, I could toss a mean pizza dough. And yeah, I knew the secret marinara sauce recipe by heart. But me, I'm a dreamer. I spent my nights sketching out ideas for gourmet toppings, dreaming of pizzas that pushed the boundaries of culinary tradition. I love the family business, don't get me wrong. But something about the endless cycle of pepperoni and sausage leaves me feeling unfulfilled.
Little did he know his destiny awaited him, hidden amongst the cannoli and tiramisu at the rival booth across the way. If Montague's was a love letter to pizza, then Capulet's trattoria was an ode to pasta. Walking into Capulet's was like stepping into a Tuscan dream. Checkered tablecloths, walls adorned with murals of rolling vineyards, and the gentle strumming of mandolins filled the air. And the food? Oh, the food! Mama Capulet ruled the kitchen like a benevolent queen, her wooden spoon, her scepter. Her pasta was legendary, each noodle crafted with love and care. She had a sixth sense for al dente, a gift that made her tortellini the stuff of legends.
I loved everything about the restaurant, from the clatter of dishes to the murmur of conversation that filled the air each night. But me, I craved something more. I dreamed of breaking free from the traditional, of adding my own modern twist to my family's classic dishes. I longed for adventure, for a taste of something new and exciting.
And she'd find it in the most unexpected place, the heart of her family's sworn enemy, a pizza prince with flour on his cheeks and a twinkle in his eye. The Verona Food Expo, a cacophony of sizzling garlic, clanging pans, and the sweet scent of competition. Montague's booth was a hive of activity, Romeo expertly tossing dough, his brow furrowed in concentration as he attempted to ignore the enticing aroma wafting from the Capulets' display across the aisle. Juliet, meanwhile, was arranging delicate pastries with the precision of a surgeon, her eyes darting nervously towards the throng of customers surrounding the Montague's stand. Their eyes met over a display of cannoli. Time seemed to stop. The sizzle of frying dough faded into the background. The scent of oregano and garlic became a distant memory. All that existed in that moment were two pairs of eyes locked in a culinary crossfire.
Nice ricotta?
Romeo, usually a smooth talker, felt his tongue tie in knots. What could he say?
I couldn't tear my gaze away from the handsome pizzaiolo across the way.
It was a moment straight out of a cheesy rom-com, only with more carbs and a significantly higher chance of a food fight breaking out at any given second. Their initial encounter was followed by stolen glances, shy smiles exchanged across crowded rooms, and secret meetings behind the dumpster where they'd swap slices of pizza for bites of tiramisu. Their love was a forbidden recipe, a dangerous blend of passion and pepperoni, simmering beneath the surface of their family's long-standing feud.
Did your dad see you sneak out?
He's too busy perfecting his bolognese sauce to notice me anymore.
It's a shame, really. He's missing out on the best thing in Verona.
Oh yeah? And what's that?
Besides you, this pizza, it's amazing.
They'd sneak away from their demanding parents, meeting under the cloak of night in dimly lit alleys, whispering sweet nothings between bites of gelato. Text messages flew back and forth, hidden amongst grocery lists and dinner reservations. Their love was a whirlwind, a recipe that called for equal parts passion and impulsiveness. They knew their families would never approve, a Montague and a Capulet united. It was unthinkable, scandalous. It could disrupt the delicate balance of power in Verona's culinary scene. So they did what any sensible young couple on the run from their food-obsessed families would do. They eloped. The ceremony was a small affair, held in the back room of Friar Lawrence's cafe. The air was thick with the aroma of freshly brewed espresso and the friar's surprisingly decent baking skills. Turns out he had a knack for cannolis. Juliet, radiant in a simple white dress, held back tears as she exchanged vows with Romeo, his eyes shining with love and a touch of flower. It was a hazard of the profession, really. Their witnesses, a couple of stray cats who had wandered in for scraps and a barista who was promised free cappuccinos for life. It wasn't the grand Italian wedding of their family's dreams, but it was theirs. A secret pact, sealed with a kiss and a shared love for good food. They just had one little problem: how to break the news to their families, who were currently engaged in a heated debate over the correct way to knead pizza dough. The honeymoon phase, it was not a long one. It turns out that love, like a good pizza, needs more than just passion to survive. It needs communication, compromise, and the ability to tolerate someone else's questionable taste in pizza toppings. Romeo and Juliet's tiny apartment, once a haven of stolen kisses and whispered secrets, was now a battleground littered with empty takeout containers and simmering resentment. The once thrilling differences between them, her love for delicate hand-rolled pasta, his unwavering devotion to a perfectly charred crust, now felt like insurmountable obstacles.
Honestly, Romeo, is that all you ever eat? It's like you're allergic to vegetables.
One evening, as Romeo sprawled on the couch, absent-mindedly flipping through sports channels and devouring a cold slice of pepperoni, Juliet stormed into the room, her face a mask of frustration.
What's wrong, Jules? You know I can't help it if pizza is one of the major food groups.
It's not a food group, Romeo. It's a crutch, a culinary cop-out.
The honeymoon phase was over and reality was setting in. Their love, once so vibrant and full of promise, was now being tested in the harsh light of everyday life. The question was, could it survive? Their arguments, once playful banter seasoned with stolen kisses, now escalated faster than the temperature of a wood-fired oven. Dishes piled up in the sink, a silent testament to their growing resentment. The sweet aroma of garlic and basil that once filled their home was replaced by the bitter scent of burnt coffee and unspoken words.
You'd think after 2 months of marriage, he'd at least try my dad's lasagna.
Juliet confided to her best friend Maria over a plate of suspiciously perfect-looking ravioli. Maria, ever the voice of reason and a loyal customer of Montague's, though don't tell Juliet that, patted her hand sympathetically.
Give him time, Jules. It's not easy being married into a family that practically worships ricotta.
Meanwhile, Romeo found himself venting his frustrations to his cousin Benvolio over a pitcher of beer and a mountain of garlic knots at their local sports bar.
She's acting like I've committed a culinary sin for wanting extra cheese on my pizza.
Romeo grumbled, tossing back a shot of espresso. Benvolio, ever the diplomat, tried to see both sides.
Maybe she's just feeling a little homesick, missing Mama Capulet's cooking?
Romeo sighed, running a hand through his already disheveled hair.
Maybe.
But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that their problems ran deeper than a simple craving for carbohydrates. One particularly tense evening, as Romeo attempted to navigate the minefield of dinner conversation by suggesting ordering Thai food, Juliet finally snapped.
Thai food? Are you serious? In this house? We are Italian, Romeo. We eat pasta. We eat pizza. We do not succumb to the culinary abominations of peanut sauce.
Romeo, his patience wearing thinner than a Neapolitan pizza crust, threw his hands up in exasperation.
Fine. If you're so determined to have another fight about food, be my guest. But frankly, I'm tired of living in a world where every meal is a referendum on our family's culinary rivalry.
The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the hiss of the gas stove. where a pot of pasta water boiled over, unnoticed and uncared for. Juliet stared at Romeo, her eyes wide with hurt and anger. Romeo stared back, his face a mixture of frustration and a dawning realization that their problems ran deeper than just differing opinions on takeout night. The fight, like their once passionate love life, fizzled out, leaving behind a residue of resentment and the bitter aftertaste of disappointment. As they sat in stony silence, the remnants of their uneaten dinner growing cold on the table, they both knew something had to change. They were drowning in a sea of marinara and misunderstandings, and neither of them knew how to swim. The following morning, the remnants of their argument hung in the air like the lingering scent of burnt garlic. Romeo avoided eye contact over a breakfast of day-old pizza, what else? While Juliet pretended to be engrossed in a magazine article titled 101 Ways to Spice Up Your Salad. The irony was not lost on either of them. The silence, punctuated by the clatter of forks and the rustle of turning pages, was broken only by Juliet's heavy sigh. Romeo braced himself, expecting another cue-in critique. Instead, he was met with a look of utter defeat.
Romeo, we can't go on like this. Fighting about pasta versus pizza, takeout versus home-cooked. It's ridiculous.
Romeo set down his fork, a sliver of pepperoni clinging precariously to the edge. He looked at Juliet, really looked at her, for the first time since their blow-up the night before. He saw the exhaustion etched beneath her eyes, the frustration that mirrored his own.
I know, Jules, I don't want to fight anymore, but I don't know how to fix this.
Juliet pushed her magazine aside, her uneaten salad a sad testament to their lost appetites.
I was thinking, maybe we should try therapy,
she said, her voice hesitant as if uttering a forbidden recipe. The waiting room of Dr. Meredith Laurent's office was the antithesis of everything Romeo and Juliet associated with Italian hospitality. Gone were the warm, inviting aromas of garlic, basil, and baking bread, replaced by the faint scent of disinfectant and a sterile silence that felt heavier than a double portion of Mama Capulet's lasagna. Romeo fidgeted nervously in his chair, flipping through a magazine titled Psychology Today, while Juliet chewed on her thumbnail, her eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape route. The only other occupant was a potted plant in the corner, its leaves drooping lower than Romeo's morale after a particularly scathing critique from Juliet's father about the quality of Montague's mozzarella.
You sure about this, Jules? This place is giving me serious indigestion.
We're here, aren't we? Might as well make the best of it. Besides, how bad could it be? It's not like she's going to make us eat anchovies.
As if summoned by the mere mention of the dreaded fish, the door to Dr. Laurent's office swung open, revealing a woman who, while not brandishing a plate of anchovies, still managed to make Romeo's stomach clench with apprehension. Dr. Meredith Laurent was not what Romeo and Juliet expected in a therapist. She wasn't the stereotypical grandmotherly figure offering tea and sympathy. No, Dr. Laurent was all business, her sharp gaze and no-nonsense demeanor reminiscent of a head chef inspecting a less-than-perfect plate of spaghetti alla carbonara. They sat on opposite ends of a plush couch that felt as out of place in the sterile environment as a sprinkle of Parmesan cheese on a bowl of plain oatmeal. Dr. Laurent, perched on a chair opposite them, her notepad at the ready, looked from one to the other, her expression unreadable.
So tell me what brings you here today, and please try to refrain from using food metaphors. I've heard them all.
Romeo opened his mouth to speak, then glanced nervously at Juliet, who was staring intently at a stain on the carpet, her face as pale as uncooked pizza dough.
We're having some marital difficulties.
Difficulties? That's a rather broad term, wouldn't you say?
Romeo cleared his throat, his palms sweating.
We fight a lot.
And what, pray tell, do you fight about?
Romeo and Juliet exchanged a look that spoke volumes about their shared predicament. How do you explain to someone who doesn't live and breathe marinara sauce and pizza dough that your entire relationship feels like a never-ending food fight?
Well, it's complicated.
The silence in Dr. Laurent's office stretched longer than a strand of hand-pulled spaghetti. Romeo could practically hear the clock ticking on the wall, each tick a stark reminder of the ticking time bomb that was their marriage. Juliet, meanwhile, had taken to meticulously straightening her already perfect posture, her spine ramrod straight as if attempting to physically distance herself from the emotional chaos swirling around them.
It's the families, isn't it?
Romeo flinched.
It's not that simple, Romeo. It's just our families. They've been feuding for so long, it's like it's in our blood. Or our marinara sauce. Whatever. S1. Media. Couple arguing at an Italian restaurant. Couple debating over Italian food. What? No, I mean yes, but...
Romeo mumbled something about overprotective fathers and family recipes that should never be tampered with, but Dr. Laurent held up a hand, silencing him.
I understand that your families have a complicated history, but you are not your families. You are individuals, capable of making your own choices.
Romeo and Juliet exchanged uneasy glances. Was it really that simple? Over the next few sessions, Dr. Laurent began to peel back the layers of their relationship like an onion, only with less tears and significantly less garlic. She encouraged them to talk about their childhoods, their dreams, their fears, all the while gently guiding them towards the root of their culinary-infused conflicts.
I confess to feeling suffocated by my father's expectations, the pressure to inherit the family trattoria weighing on me like a mountain of uncooked pasta dough. He means well, but he doesn't understand that I don't just want to follow in his footsteps. I want to create my own recipes, my own future.
My dad, he's obsessed with expansion, new locations, franchise opportunities. He's always pushing me to be more ambitious, to think bigger. But I'm not sure I want to build a pizza empire. I'm happy with our little place, with the customers who know us by name.
As they shared their stories, a strange thing happened. The anger, the resentment, the constant urge to throw pizza crusts at each other began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of shared understanding, of empathy. They weren't just a Montague and a Capulet, locked in a culinary battle for supremacy. They were Romeo and Juliet, two individuals struggling to find their place in the world, weighed down by the expectations of their families and the legacy of a feud they never asked for.
It seems to me that you've both allowed your family's feud to dictate your lives for far too long. You've let it define your relationship, your choices, even your taste in food.
Dr. Laurent, observing their newfound vulnerability with the clinical detachment of a seasoned therapist and the slight air of someone who'd heard it all before, decided it was time to serve up a heaping helping of tough love, family style.
But it doesn't have to be this way. You have the power to choose your own path, to create your own recipe for happiness. But it requires work, commitment, and a willingness to break free from the mold your families have created for you.
Romeo and Juliet looked at each other, a flicker of hope igniting in their eyes. Could they really break free from the cycle of rivalry and resentment that had plagued their families for generations? Could they choose love over lasagna, pizza over prejudice? The next few weeks were a whirlwind of awkward firsts and hesitant steps towards reconciliation. Romeo surprised Juliet with a picnic basket filled with her favorite cheeses and olives. He even remembered the gluten-free crackers. Juliet, in turn, baked Romeo a batch of his grandmother's famous chocolate chip cookies. The secret ingredient, she learned, was a pinch of sea salt. They started going on dates again, exploring the hidden culinary gems of Verona, venturing beyond the familiar comfort zones of pizza and pasta. They discovered a shared love for spicy Sichuan noodles, the fiery flavors igniting a different kind of passion within them.
You know, maybe deep dish and ravioli can coexist after all.
To coexistence and to therapy. Who knew talking about our feelings could be so palatable?
They still had their differences, their moments of frustration, but now they faced them together, armed with the tools Dr. Laurent had given them. Communication, compromise, and a shared love of good food, no matter the cuisine. Verona watched with a mixture of amusement and cautious optimism as Romeo and Juliet, the prodigal son and daughter of the city's most notorious culinary rivals, embarked on a venture as daring as pairing pineapple with pizza. They opened a restaurant together. They called it Amore e Cucina, a testament to their enduring love and their shared passion for all things food. It was a cozy, inviting space, decorated with a blend of rustic charm and modern flair. a reflection of their own unique recipe for happiness. The menu, a carefully curated blend of Montague and Capulet classics alongside innovative dishes inspired by their culinary adventures, was a declaration of truce, a culinary olive branch extended to their warring families. The opening night was a resounding success, a testament to the power of good food and the enduring appeal of a love story, even one seasoned with a healthy dose of family drama. Montagues and Capulets, who had avoided each other's establishments for years, found themselves breaking bread and pizza crust at adjoining tables, their initial awkwardness giving way to hesitant smiles and polite conversation about the weather and the surprisingly delicious tiramisu. Romeo, his face flushed with pride and a light dusting of flour, old habits die hard, expertly manned the pizza oven, his creations a testament to his family's legacy and his own evolving culinary vision. Juliet, her eyes sparkling with excitement and a smear of tomato sauce on her cheek, a badge of honor in her family, charmed customers with her warmth and her encyclopedic knowledge of pasta sauces. Did their families suddenly bury the hatchet and join hands in a heartwarming display of unity, singing Italian folk songs while stirring a giant pot of marinara sauce? Not quite. Old rivalries like well-aged cheese have a way of lingering, but there was a noticeable decrease in flying cannoli during family gatherings, and the occasional shared plate of pasta between Mama Capulet and Papa Montague offered a glimmer of hope for future generations. As for Romeo and Juliet, their love story continued to simmer, seasoned with the same passion, humor, and occasional sprinkle of culinary chaos that had brought them together in the first place. They built a life together, brick by brick, pizza slice by pasta bowl. Their love story a testament to the fact that even the most deep-seated rivalries can be bridged with a little bit of understanding, a dash of compromise, and a whole lot of delicious food. They still argued, of course. What loving couple doesn't? But their disagreements were no longer fueled by generations of animosity and the pressure to choose sides. They were the kind of arguments that started with a playful debate over the correct way to fold a calzone and ended with a shared laugh, a knowing glance, and a reminder that love, like a well-kneaded dough, only grows stronger with time. And so, in the heart of Verona, where the aroma of garlic and basil mingled with the sweet scent of love and forgiveness, Romeo and Juliet proved that even amidst the fiercest of culinary battles, there's always room for a little amore. After all, when it comes to matters of the heart and the stomach, there's nothing that a little love and a well-baked pizza can't fix. The end.